Welcome to Natural Born Talents. Today's subject, the Skinwalker. When I was in Utah, I had heard about the Skinwalker Ranch incident in southern Utah. And since my ancestors have me synchronized pretty much with anything on the planet, I thought I'd bring this subject up. Now, before I get into the details of the Skinwalker, I would like to explain a little bit about how synchronicity works. At least the technique my ancestors taught me. Basically, this kind of synchronicity is just picking up morphogenetic fields, or energy fields. This can be of places, human and non-human entities. The information is downloaded into my psyche, and then I make an analysis. Most energy-sensitive people or empaths can do this. I used to use this technique in my early days of ghost hunting. Now, this synchronicity technique can be used when I'm here in physical form, but it also can be used when I'm on the other side of the matrix. In the Skinwalker's case, I didn't have a direct encounter with the Skinwalker. My ancestors were all too happy to have me synchronize with one of the Skinwalkers from a distance. Synchronizing from a distance is a rather complicated technique. If my listeners are interested, I can make a video on the details of that at a later time. My ancestors wisely had me do it this way because at that time I was ghost hunting, and I think they wanted to make sure that if I had a real encounter with one of these things, I would know that it would be probably wise to leave immediately. Because during my early days of ghost hunting, most of the things that I encountered were not that evil, not that destructive. Most of the things that I ran into were ghosts, but occasionally I would synchronize with one of the yokai, the strange little creatures that are prevalent throughout Japan, much like in the European folklore of the fairies, gnomes, goblins, and the like. But none of these things were so foul, so evil, so terrifying as the Skinwalker. Now, the Skinwalker is, of course, of Native American folklore, especially with the Navajo Indian. Curiously, the Navajo Indians also have stories of what are known as black witches. And if any of these black witches were caught practicing skinwalking, they would immediately be put to death. That's how terrified they were of the Skinwalkers. I don't know the details of the Navajo culture or the history, so I only can give you an account of what I experienced while I was in Utah. And if anyone listening to this has had an experience with Skinwalkers, I'd love to hear from you so we can compare notes. So I'll give a little bit more on the background on how this synchronicity works in order to understand the mechanism of how I understand what I synchronize with. This will help confirm other people listening to that if they had an experience with a Skinwalker, they could compare their experience with mine and see if we come up with a match. And again, this technique is used to recognize people's auras, to see if they have ego, if there is evil in the area, or some extraterrestrial being is nearby, and so on. So in the Celtic culture, the Shinto culture, and in the American Indian cultures, as well as other cultures, all have these religions or practices very close to nature, where the shaman or the druid, or in Japanese, the kanushi, would synchronize or connect to nature. It sometimes refers to the word kami in Japanese. What kami really means is that something has a spirit to it. A mountain, a lake, a river, anything that's pretty much sacred. The Celtics also had similar ways of thinking and practices. They believed that a lot of the lakes, rivers that were fairy mounds, for example, were sacred. What was surprising to me is a similarity between the Celtic, Shinto, and Native American religious practices. They all have their own unique practices, of course, but they also have some similar ones. And one of those practices is synchronizing with animals and other beings in order to attain their power, their energy, their agility, and their cunningness. In Japan, they're called the henke, which means the ability to shape-shift into some sort of animal form, be it rabbit, be it monkey, the fox, the tanuki, be it pretty much anything. Now, in Japan, if you were lucky, you could synchronize with something like a tengu. And a tengu is a very high-level, strong spiritual being that usually protects something within nature. Something to the akin of the Side folk, or Shi, or the Shog, the fairy folk, the gentry, in old Celtic mythology. However, like anything, there's a dark side. Some people would synchronize with something very dark, a demon. In Japan, an oni. And since Native Americans are similar in many ways to the Shinto and Celtic ways of thinking, they probably figured out how to synchronize with animals as well. But they also probably synchronized things that were very dark. And lo and behold, the Skinwalker was born. Now, to reiterate, when somebody synchronizes with another being to learn, obtain, absorb their power, they can corrupt themselves when doing so. Likely, these individuals who do this are tempted by the power that they can achieve by synchronizing with something like a Skinwalker. There was one experience I had here in Japan when I was synchronized with what is known as a kappa. A kappa is a very strange being indeed. It's nothing like the Skinwalker except one thing. When it synchronizes with human beings, it absorbs their energy, usually a child, and eventually corrupts the child to become one of them. The kappa does this for survival, not to be malicious. It just needs a way to reproduce, and this is the way that they do it. The Skinwalker, however, is much more vicious about how they do this. The kappa needs the will of the child in order to absorb them and bring them into their family, whereas the Skinwalker just absolutely devours your soul, much like a demon. In fact, I'm kind of wondering if that is not what the origin of Skinwalkers are, demons. When I synchronized with one of them, it was like having my soul put in a blender, mixed with the overflowing stench of a medieval sewer system. The Skinwalker was just to devour your soul, to destroy your will, to absorb you, until they corrupted you and reproduce another Skinwalker. Their thoughts are just sheer evil, malicious, terrorizing. Everything you would imagine you would experience at the bottom of the inferno. Now, I didn't see any weak points that they may have. They do seem to fear things like angels and higher beings, but I'm not so sure they have a free will. Something stronger or more powerful seems to be controlling them. Either that or they have some unknown weak point. Because if they were let loose on the planet without any control from the angels or the higher beings, they would lay waste to humanity in a very short time, I'm sure. This is the part of the Skinwalker I understand the least. There must be something controlling them. One of the demons, one of the devils, I'm not sure. Maybe like wolves, they live in packs and only hunt when they know they have an advantage over their prey. But from what I've heard, there seems to be very little that can affect them. And there are very few beings I know of that don't fear them. So the Skinwalker seems to be these once human beings who synchronized with something they should not have. Demons from the Inferno, perhaps. There they spawned a race of their kind. Part animal, part human, part demon. A mixture of all the darkness of those three beings. There are many paranormal experiences that you can explore that are harmless, that don't really cause anybody any serious damage. But this is not one of them. Their soul stinks of such a putrid smell, I don't know how to describe it. Their consciousness for the need to just simply devour and destroy is something that is incomprehensible to probably anyone in the Matrix. Which seems to me that they're really not connected to the game of the Matrix. They seem to be outside of it, only allowed to play in it from time to time when they go on a hunt. Perhaps this wasn't always so, but it seems to be the case now. There does seem to be something that's holding them back to allow them to run free and destroy humanity as a whole. I cannot confirm this. But one curious thing about the Utah incident called the Skinwalker Ranch was that there were also a lot of UFO sightings around that area. There were incidents of mutilated cows that were attributed to either the UFOs or the Skinwalkers, as well as sightings of Skinwalkers and UFOs in the same general area. I was wondering if the aliens had made a deal with the Skinwalkers or something. Perhaps they're the ones that are controlling them. Hard to say. If anyone has any experience dealing with the Skinwalkers or any information they'd like to add to this video, please leave them in the comments section below. I'd really love to hear about it. I'd like to get more insight on this subject because to me these things are unlike anything that I've encountered anywhere else, and I thank my ancestors for allowing me to synchronize them from a distance, something I don't want to experience again. If you enjoyed any of the artwork in this video and would like to have one made for you or your loved one, say having your face put inside the Matrix or something like that, please let me know by either contacting me in the email address or in the comments section below. Thanks again for watching. Hope to see you in the next video.